Hey guys, this is Dave with Level Up Woodworking, and today, well, we're going to build this nightstand. It was an interesting project for me. I learned a lot, so let's get started. Hey guys, thanks for tuning into my channel today. Today I'm building a really nice bedside table, and I'm very inspired by all the master craftsmen out there. I'm by no means in that category. I'm still learning, but there's a lot of techniques in this video that I attempted to do well. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. But I attempted to do well in learning how to build a really nice quality piece of furniture. Something that I want to continue to do well into the future on this channel. So let's get started and break down some wood. First thing I like to do is break down my wood, and here I was breaking down the premium walnut to make the legs for this table. I ended up cutting this wood in 3 cuts with my skill saw. Probably could have done it in 1 cut, but I decided to do it in 3. It's really a nice piece of wood. It's beautiful to work with. I love the grain in it, and yeah, it's just nice wood altogether. After that, I wanted to join an end and then cut it on the table saw into strips for legs. Once the legs were cut, I wanted to put a little bit of a chamfer on the leg to give it a interesting visual appearance. And I also put a 90-degree corner on the back side of the leg and a 95 on the front. So you might notice the front kind of angle out a little bit. Thought that would give it a nice visual appearance. Built myself a little gluing jig to glue the legs together, and started with the 90-degree corner on the back side of the legs. I picked up a little trick to use a little glad wrap to be able to lay in the jig, glue the legs in so they don't stick to the jig, because that would definitely be a problem. Works great. I'm very happy with it. And got the backs glued together, and then I did the 95 degrees on the front and glued those together. Once I had set all the angles and cut the legs, I wanted to cut the bottoms off at the right height. Built myself just a little piece of spacer to hold on to the leg while I did that, and then did some final sanding. I had actually sanded these pieces ahead of time, so I just had to do a little cleanup where I ended up gluing the wood together. Put 2 coats of stain on the wood and set them aside, because those were done, and I was ready to move on to building the box that holds the drawer. While Building the legs wasn't too difficult of a process. Certainly with all the angles it was a little interesting. Putting the box together was a little more challenging for me, only because I had to add a piece of wood to make the 15-inch width that I wanted. My planer doesn't accommodate that. I don't have a drum sander to accommodate that, so I had to run them through the planer separately and then use a biscuit joiner to join them together. I didn't have one full-length piece, but that wasn't that big of a deal. As long as the two pieces that I added fit along a cut line, I would be okay. Once I finished gluing the piece together for the box, I just wanted to trim the end, and I was ready to cut the 45s to be able to make the box itself. This was actually my third attempt at making this 45-degree cut. It's a long, fairly long cut at 15 inches, and I need to have the piece well held in place. I initially started with a miter gauge. It was a really nice miter gauge, but insufficient to hold the piece in place. Then I moved to the crosscut sled, and then I moved to the crosscut sled with this rigging that you see here. Once I had this in place, it worked very well. Just kind of had to learn my way through it. And once I got all the 45s cut, then I wanted to cut a groove in the back to be able to put a piece of panel in for the back of the box. I thought cutting some biscuit slots in this would help me put the box together for alignment, and actually when I glued it together, it actually was very helpful. Don't really need it for strength. I think the box itself was strong enough with just glue, but the biscuits did help with alignment. Now, applying the glue and putting the box together with these biscuits for alignment was no problem. That was pretty straightforward. Clamping it in place was definitely a different beast. I ended up clamping all four sides together, and I really wish I would have used a 45-degree clamp on the front and potentially on the back as I put this together. That's a mistake on my part. There was a couple different options to use these 45-degree clamps, and certainly in the future I will try to take advantage of that. Box came out reasonably okay. It looks nice. I got some waterfall edges on this, which I appreciate, but I really had a lot to learn on how to clamp these 45s all the way around on such a long box. I built some smaller ones before and have had no problems with that, but certainly on these long ones it was a little bit more difficult. Now, considering I planed the box, I had very little sanding to do on this, and I was able to do that sanding and set the box aside along with the legs and move on to the next step. And in this case, it was a drawer front that I wanted to be able to carve out of this beautiful piece of 4x4 walnut. First time I ever really carved a drawer face before, and I wanted to kind of lay everything out with a pencil, so I kind of knew where the curves and the angles were. And once I did that, I was ready to get my shaping disc on my grinder and start grinding some curves into this. If you've never used a wood shaping disc before on a grinder, I would highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun, very interesting, totally different perspective on how to cut wood. And I went through a first pass on both sides in these videos, and then actually ended up doing a second and third pass to try to make sure they were consistent. I used a Dremel tool to do some fine work and actually Dremel out the handle on this, and a significant amount of sanding, hours of sanding to try to get this accurate, smooth, and shapely. I probably could have spent more time doing it, but I thought actually in the end it was pretty good. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. I would highly recommend trying to shape wood in the future if you haven't tried it. It doesn't really cost a lot for a disc to be able to do that, and like I said, it's kind of a different way of working on wood. Once that was all done, I was able to cut it on the table saw to the right width, and I wanted to make sure the handle was right in the middle of the drawer. And as I sculpted it, it was off a little bit, so I was able to fix that. Here I ended up going multiple passes to make sure I got clean line cuts on the drawer ends, that I didn't have to sand off too much. And I was ready to set this aside and move on to the next step in the process of building this table.